Well, thanks very much, and again, thanks to Good Oil for persevering and giving us a forum to talk to investors. It's always a pleasure to be here. As Bob Dylan said, the times are changing, and when we look at the industry, the times have changed many times, and I actually see this as a major opportunity for the industry. I'm not at all concerned about what the future looks like. The oil and gas industry has done wonders for energy security in the world and standards of living, and we've got an opportunity to continue to do that. If we look at our base businesses, demand is not going anywhere. We're still on the demand side looking at about 100 million barrels a day. The price in Aussie dollars is close to $100 a barrel. So if you can't make money in the oil business now, you probably shouldn't be in it. But the times, they are changing. We've got to be very cognizant of the fact that there's an ESG component overlying our industry, and what that's done is made investors nervous. Very hard to get reasonable finance for particularly for development. Obviously, there's a few of us in the audience that have been raising money lately, so there's still investor appetite for oil and gas. But on the major investors and banks, it's a real struggle. They're all scared of the ESG monster, in my view, completely erroneously. So, look, what we see is our base business or what we call our core business in Buru, is still very strong. We've got profitable oil production, we've got an extensive exploration program going, so the funding's there for exploration. There's still plenty of oil to be found, and that's where we're focused. The gas demand's very high, but for us, that's a bigger company's game, basically. We like oil. Not many other people are looking for it. If you do find it, it's relatively cheap to produce, onshore of course, and it's fungible. You can sell the stuff as soon as you produce it. You don't have to worry about writing a 20-year contract and bargaining over the price. You know what the price is, you know you can sell it. So for a small company like ours, oil is a place we want to be. We've also got a strong balance sheet, and that obviously helps because you're not going back to the market. We tried very hard not to blow our capital out. I'm a reasonable shareholder in the company, and the last thing I want to do is keep diluting myself. And we've got an operating capability. We basically operate for three large companies. Now, we see the opportunity in the non-core business as well. And what we tried to do there is just apply our expertise to it. We're not going to run off and try and compete by building big solar farms or windmills. We don't have any expertise in that, and it's a very competitive business. I know some of my compatriots are doing that, and I'm sure they'll do well in it, but it's not something that we're interested in. So we've got four areas that we're looking at. One we call 2H Resources, which is natural hydrogen, and I'll talk a little bit about these in a minute. Project Geovolt, carbon capture and storage. Batmin, and again very specifically related to our core business on battery minerals, and a small-scale solar and gas project. And then, of course, our people. We've got a great team, and we've been able to add some terrific people. The major companies have been very good to us by firing people, and we've been able to hire them, and they're very happy to find a home where there's, you know, a biscuit barrel and nobody's clocking them in and on and off. So if we talk a little bit about our core assets, we've got a very large contiguous land holding. We've always tried to keep a big contiguous land holding because if you find something, you need to be able to chase it across permit boundaries. So And we've also just started to expand outside the canning into an onshore Carnarvon. Again, I'll talk about that in a moment. We've got a good exploration program going at the moment. We've just drilled the first well for conventional oil called Kurrajong. We seem to have encountered a substantial oil column there. We've completed the well and we'll be putting it on test production in the next few weeks. So we're very hopeful that we made what looks like a pretty interesting oil discovery close to our existing production. We're also about halfway down on our Raphael well. This is again a conventional oil target, potential on the high side over 100 million barrels, at the mean about 70 million. These are very unusual prospect for onshore Australia. Very interesting well. We're about halfway down, a couple of weeks till we get into the reservoir. We also produce oil, not enough, so we're going to drill another well on our Ngani field, which we operate with Rock Oil, and we're hoping that that'll kick production up. At the moment, as I said before, these oil prices, everybody's making money. One of our strengths, I think, is that we are an experienced operator. We operate for Origin Energy, for Rock Oil, and for MinRes. So for us as Buru to be operating for three major companies like that, I think is a real confirmation of our ability to do it. As I talked about, strong balance sheet, and like everybody else, we're looking at our internal Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions and trying to drive those down. As I said, we've in the middle of the drilling program with Kurrajong, which we should be testing in a couple of weeks. Raphael's about halfway down. That's going well. Good rig, operating well with no incidents. We're also doing a major seismic program to fill up the prospect hopper for the next couple of years. And there's about 1,100 k's of seismic there. Origin are paying a big chunk of those exploration costs for the exploration wells and the seismic, which is helping to preserve our balance sheet. And of course, we're looking to drill Ngani 8, which will hopefully kick our oil production up and increase our cash flow. As I mentioned, one of the things we're trying to do is use our IP, our core skills, to expand the business. Now, we've been in the canning for over 10 years, had some success there with the Ngani oil discovery. We've identified a very major tight gas accumulation, and of course we're waiting for our friends from the government to get the fracking regulations through so we can get back to work on that. But we're also at the moment looking for some conventional gas in that area as well. So with MinRes, we picked up a block L20-1 just onshore from Onslow. The shallow section on there has been pretty well explored, to Bridgie gas field being a good example, but the underlying Paleozoic section, which is an absolute layover for what we see in the canning, has hardly been touched. So there's some very good exploration potential there, and of course it's right in the middle of the infrastructure with pipelines, with the Wheatstone facility, and of course with our friends from MinRes doing a major iron ore development. So that's been a great acquisition for us. So moving on then to what we're trying to use our core skills to do to add value to the company, and also to venture out into the new energy business. As I said, I'm actually really excited about this. And the industry has gone through changes like offshore drilling, Bass Strait being one of the first areas where major discoveries were made in the offshore, through to 3D seismic, and then of course for unconventionals. In 2009, people were telling me that there was going to be a big oil production scenario through drilling nano-Darcy rocks. I was sceptical, and still am about the economics, but anyway, but who would have thought the industry would be utterly transformed by that, and the US become an oil exporter. So there are these inflection points in the industry. We're at one of those now. We have to use the skills we build up over the years and our knowledge and apply that to where the whole energy sector's going. So this is one area, and there's a lot of skepticism about this, but there is naturally occurring hydrogen. It's actually produced from a field in Mali, and it's almost ubiquitous. When we go back and look at the old wells, analyse the gas samples, and we have a hydrogen gas detector on our rig now, which saw a nice hydrogen spike while we were drilling the Kurrajong well. The stuff's there. There is naturally occurring hydrogen. It's no different to drilling for methane, same sort of technology. Then you've got to get it out, purify it, transport it, all the things that we do as part of our core business. This is a highly competitive space, as we found out once we started messing in it. And so we're not saying a lot about it. We've been working on this for quite a while now, and we'll be able to talk a lot more about it once we've got everything in place. But it's potentially a major contributor to the hydrogen economy. Carbon capture and storage. That graph tells the story. Last year, the world sequestered 40 million tonnes to meet the targets of net zero by 2050, to sequester mainly industrial CO2 emissions. You're going to have to sequester, and this is according to the IEA, 2.35 billion tonnes. So in that time, in 20 years, we've got to go from 40 million to 2.35 billion. The way you do that, as Ian Charkos was talking about, you have to have an underground reservoir and you have to know what you're doing geologically. Is that a sweet spot for us? Of course it is. Anybody can design a compressor and pipework and stuff on the surface, but to get the stuff under the ground and keep it there is the core skills that the oil and gas industry uses. So again, we've been doing a lot of work in the background on this. We've got some very skilled people in the business, and we think we can drive this into potentially a very large business. I'll talk very briefly, because I'm going to run out of time, on battery minerals. Look on this as protection acreage. We're in the Canning Basin. We keep drilling oil wells and finding lead zinc deposits, but they're too deep to mine. So one day we're going to stumble over one that's shallow enough to mine, and I don't want to have to give that to the holder of the mineral exploration licence. So basically we've started to pick up mineral exploration licences in the Canning, again using our core geological expertise. And it's a pretty fascinating business. I think there's a real chance we're going to find something pretty substantial in this project. And I like the logo as well. Our last project is, as I mentioned, it's a small scale gas power generation system with solar as well to make it green. We're working with our native title holders to make that project a reality. So just summing up then, got a great acreage position, got oil production, we've got a good balance sheet, we're drilling lots of holes, and we've taken a major step into the next step of the oil and gas industry. Thank you.